Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Are you ready to become masters of the hammer-wielding crusader? I hope you are, because this is part 2 of our actually advanced Reinhardt guide, otherwise known as the Reind games. In part 1, we took a look at all of the tank heroes in the game and how you should be playing around them. More specifically, we took a look at the Reind v Reind duel, which is the most important set of information you can memorize while playing Reinhardt. Today, we're going to take a look at the matchup between Reinhardt and all the DPS heroes, and for part 3, we'll take a look at the battle between Reinhardt and the healers, as well as some advanced strategies to pull with your team. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. When you're fighting against Bastion, don't. Listen here, not only was he a problem child before the patch, but now with his increased range, he's even more of a shield melter than before. And thanks to that, he's also seeing more play in lower tiers. To take Bastion down, make sure you have reliable healing as you get in close, and be sure to have your team focus him since doing it alone is literally impossible. If you have a Zarya, ask for a bubble and charge him if he's in a position for you to do so. Make sure you're close enough to him, since on long stretches like on Eichenwald, he can delete you and the bubble before you even reach him if you don't start the charge close enough. The only problem with this is that Bastions generally will sit far enough away that you'll get caught by the rest of his team. Because of this, I actually recommend using Pharah to apply pressure from a safe location for him to stand up, which is your best opportunity to go in with a charge, even just to catch an enemy, since the Bastion will run away to heal and won't bother you for at least a few seconds. The fight against Doomfist is a bit of a tricky one. He can hit you with 2 of his abilities through your shield, and both will displace you from your team. Now, the same principle applies to countercharging Reind, but it's obviously much harder to react to. So instead, when you most likely get uppercutted, you have enough range to hit him and create distance, making that follow-up punch or knuckle shots harder to land. Alternatively, you can charge at him in midair, which is very hard to do, so only if you're sure you can land it, or you can hold up your shield and just pray for your supports to help you. Essentially, he's just really good at bullying you, which there isn't really much you can do about since it takes 4 hits to kill him, and potentially even more from the shielding he generates from bullying you. It's best to let your DPS deal with him since you can't do much alone. One thing you can do though is block his meteor strike damage since shields block the radius. Make sure not to stand at the epicenter though, since it will still damage you, and for an inexplicable reason, holding your shield up to the top doesn't actually block the damage, so don't do that. It also gives you a free charge kill though, so while he's locked in his ending animation, try and catch him before he can recover. One of the things Doomfist will try and do is take out your backline support, so try and peel for them while you can, and if you happen to get a shatter on him, he's a priority target to charge. Next is Genji, and a good Genji can be really annoying just like a good Tracer, but most of the time you should have no problem with him. Remember, Genji tends to be really hard to heal as well as hit, especially when he's using his blade, which means you're one of the best matchups against him. Just 3 slaps and he's down, which you can usually pull off before he kills more than 1 person or maybe 2 if you're unlucky. Generally, don't be afraid to beat him up during his ult since inexperienced Genjis are usually reckless with it, and some even panic and use it with less than full HP, which makes your job even easier. Genji literally can't dodge your hammer unless he's using deflect, which doesn't happen as much as it should during his ultimate. I should be making a Genji guide against Reind, shouldn't I? Maybe another day, but yeah, Genji matchup is pretty easy, and if he uses Nano Blade, just shatter and charge him. It's an easy kill, and it's definitely worth the 2 ults that the enemy team used to trade for yours. So, Hanzo isn't the worst hero to deal with, it's just that he can storm arrow your entire health bar, which kinda sucks. The best thing to do is try and block it for your team as much as possible, and try not to challenge him, since he can leap out of your range and delete you pretty quickly. Your job is to block his damage and walk out of Dragon Strike, but that's mostly it. I think we covered Junkrat mostly in the last video, but here's a little bit extra. Sometimes Junkrat will try and displace you with his concussion mine, so try to drop shield, jump back, and then put it back up. You'll have a better chance of blocking the damage instead of getting hit by it, but either way your team will be exposed for half a second, so be cautious when doing it. Junkrat will usually use his tire and focus you or your supports with it. It's hard for you to protect your team from it, but when it's coming for you, there are 3 options. 1, you can try and fire strike it since it does 100% of the tire's health. 2, you can try and block it with shield by jumping around and predicting when it will explode. Or 3, you can jump around and spin shield like a madman. It looks really dumb, and I mean of course it doesn't work, right? Well, that's where you're wrong. I literally don't know why, but it actually works out most of the time, at least more consistently than trying to predict it. This is a tip I picked up from a Diamond Reind main in a game a couple months ago, and it hasn't left me since. Do it, trust me, you'll be pretty surprised. Here's the thing about McCree. His abilities aren't that hard to block, but his right click can do a lot of damage to your shield. Mostly though, his flashbang, which isn't the biggest problem for low tier, but low plat and higher, you'll have to watch out for McCree's trying to flashbang above your shield. It's actually not that hard to block. If you see the enemy McCree looking above you, turn your crosshair up to raise your shield, and then it'll just hit the shield. And then there's the really high level McCrees which will look up just to bait you, and then flash your feet, but until high diamond, the first strat should keep you pretty safe. Mei is like, just a pain. Her freeze is pretty quick, so you don't want to have your shield down too much. One of the best things you can do is block her icicles and do some barrier dancing. Remember, your shield can take the freeze for you, so try and slap her, then wait for the freeze on you to wear off, then rinse and repeat until she either ice blocks, runs away, or dies. In most situations, when Mei throws her ultimate, there's almost nothing you can really do. Don't shatter even if it feels like a good idea, since the freeze outlasts the stun from shatter, and people will just end up dying with a wasted ultimate. Also, charge won't get you out of it, it just freezes you too quickly. Just accept your death and move on. Also, both of her abilities can block her and her teammates from your shatters, so it's your job to keep track of them and try to call them out to your team as well. Pharah is just not your problem. Basically, pay no attention to her since you can't do much. Try and block the damage from her ult while your team tries to kill her. Even if your shield will break, it adds a couple more seconds onto the lifespan of your teammates, and gives a better chance at dealing with her. Other than that, block her rockets and throw the occasional fire strike if you want. Reaper is pretty scary to deal with. When he's up close, he'll melt you and your shield. That being said, you still want to block most of the damage while you get your team to focus him, since you don't want anyone else to get deleted in the process. You can block his ultimate, but if there are too many people standing behind your shield, it'll break pretty fast, since Death Blossom deals damage to all enemies in its radius in a direction from the center, meaning that your shield will soak up all the damage for the people behind it. Still, it's better than everyone dying, I suppose. If you're feeling really courageous, you probably have enough hit points to put down your shield and charge him, and the same principle applies, just shatter him if he's being nanoed. And if you find yourself in a sticky situation alone against him, try and jump away from him while block dancing. It's your best option while you wait for help. Soldier really isn't that big of a problem since his damage isn't enough to melt your shield very quickly. Just make sure to block his ult damage and shatter if he's nanoed just like with Genji. If he gets too close, you can usually beat him up, but as you hit him, try and aim him in the general direction of a corner, as he'll usually try to run away and heal. If you get him into a corner, he just can't out-heal your damage, so murder him straight out. The best strategy to make sure he doesn't get away is 2 hits and a fire strike, so do with that what you will. Next is Sombra, and I have to say, fuck Sombra, dude. Yeah, her hack is easy to block with her shield, but EMP is instant death when you know a Diva Bomb is coming in. It also gives the enemy team a free shatter whenever they want. The best thing that you can do is drop shield when she's about to EMP, and pray that you live long enough to see your abilities come back. When your shield comes back, it'll still have its charge, as opposed to if you were EMP'd with the shield up. Other than that, try and force her to translocate when she gets too close to your supports. You could even surprise her with a shatter if you're really annoyed with her. Honestly, she isn't indirectly a threat, but is stronger against you than even Reaper or Roadhog in some situations. Symmetra will usually try to put turrets behind you since they can melt you pretty hard. It's your job to get the ones close to you if no one else is, since any vulnerabilities to you are vulnerabilities to their team which you want to protect. Another thing is the teleporter. She can use it in plenty of ways, such as teleporting various ultimates. If you think that there might be an ultimate coming in from the telly, then try and position your shield accordingly. Another thing is her ultimate. It makes it really hard to shatter since it's just a Reind barrier that doesn't go down for several seconds. Also, it's a pretty good reactive counter to shatter, so watch out for that. Torbjorn can really be a big problem for your team if his turret is in a location far away from his team. You'll want to block the damage from it and try to throw a fire strike at it every now and then just to bring it down. Other than that, an important thing to know is that Earth Shatter will actually stun Torb's turret, and when that's done, you can even charge it for an extra few seconds of stun. Using this, you can last out most of the duration of Molten Core, which is helpful to your team. There's not much else you can do with Torb himself, since he's not really much of a threat to you or your team generally. Your team can easily kill him, so leave that job to the DPS. Tracer can be one of the biggest pains if she knows what she's doing. You usually can't pull off your combo fast enough to kill her, which kind of sucks. You have to play defensively against her for most of the time. If you get stuck with a pulse bomb, turn your shield towards your team and make sure that none of the damage splashes off of you onto them. And if your shield gets hit with a pulse bomb, try and move it into a wall since the bomb will stay on that part of your shield and the wall will completely nullify it. You can try to put pressure on her and slap her around to stop her from one-clipping your supports, but other than that, she's basically just not your problem. Finally, we have Widowmaker, who is literally just not your problem. 100% of the time, not your problem. So just make sure to block her shots, keep your shield up until you know your team can be safe, alert your team when her shield is about to go down because they need to get to a secure location before you do so. Even just a few seconds is enough to lose a teammate, so try really hard not to put it down when she has sights on your team. If you're really ballsy, you can throw a fire strike up at her just to show her who's boss every now and then, but most of them won't hit, so don't waste your efforts. So that's the last DPS hero we have to cover, and that means that this video comes to a close. You can expect the final part of the Reind games to come out very soon, so stay tuned for that. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, and you found this guide to be extremely super helpful, make sure to drop a like down below as it really helps me out and helps to grow the channel. Of course, leaving a dislike is just fine as well. Either way, you obviously enjoy Overwatch as you clicked on this video for whatever reason, so why not subscribe, as I love Overwatch too, and these videos are made weekly. Also, make sure to turn notifications on with the click of a bell so you can leave that first comment that you've always wanted to. This is Carter signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day.